Noon, good morning, good evening, wherever you live. I'm Emily. I'm your host for today. I lead the DevRel team here at Scroll, but I'm not important. My guests here today are the super important ones. Thanks again for joining. We're going today about, I guess, how to build successful dApps, kind of an anticipation of the existing currently running Alchemy hackathon. And so we have some 10x Alchemy X Scroll builders here. And I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. I guess we'll start with Ray, and then we'll do the round robin.
Cool. I'm Ray. Thanks for having me on here today. And I'm one of the co-founders and CTO at Gauntlet. And Gauntlet is the platform for off-chain intelligence that drives on-chain efficiency in DeFi. And we manage risk, optimize incentives, and are vault curators for many of the leading DeFi protocols out there, as well as blockchains. And Gauntlet is also developing Era, the protocol, which is a protocol for non-custodial on-chain asset management, and currently offering treasury management solutions for DAOs.
Cool. And then we
Hi, Emily. Hi, Ray. Nice to meet you guys. I'm Wimi. I'm at the content and community role at Revoke.cash. For those of you who don't know Revoke, we were founded in 2019 by Roscoe Kellis, who is the founder of Revoke. We are basically a free tool that helps users to practice proper wallet hygiene on chain by all the approvals that you are signing using the blockchains out there, interacting with smart contracts on the various blockchains you're using. It's really easy to lose track of what you signed and what you approved with your wallets. And this is what Revoke.cash was built for. And yeah, I'm happy to be here today.
Okay, very cool. I'm a huge fan of Roscoe, so when I heard Revoke was coming on, I was like, oh, wait, I know this project. But I know Gauntlet very well as well. But I think I want to start kind of structuring the agenda today. We're going to start with you, Ray, talk a little bit about the journey of Gauntlet, your insights as, a co-founder, growing a project, and then dive into your side, me talking about again, what makes a successful project, your time at Revoke, and kind of circle back and do a joint thing. And how does this all connect to our early hackathon builders in the space? So I guess we may sit tight for a bit because Ray, you're the star of the show right now. I am curious if you can talk a little bit about just the early days of Gauntlet, especially for builders kind of just getting started. Any interesting stories from the field to inspire us with regards to challenges, growth, success during your time there?
Yeah, happy to jump into it. So Gauntlet is a little over 6 years old at this point. So in this space, that's a reasonably long time. We started in 2018, kind of in a bit of a bear market type of market environment. We kind of initial customers that we worked with were Cadena and Stellar. At the time, we were focused on essentially analyzing consensus algorithms for various layer 1 blockchains, and in particular, trying to kind of stress test these consensus and quorum configurations under different network topology assumptions and different quorum configurations. And we started off with this simulation-based approach, which was kind of inspired by my intern's background in quant trading, as well as experiences building kind of Uber's marketplace as well. And so we started with some of these early partnerships with these L1s, as were a lot of the kind of R&D and attention in the space focus at the time. And that's kind of how Gauntlet got its original start.
Yeah, actually, that kind of brings me, thinking even further back. I'm always curious about people's how did you get into crypto, right? Because I think that is especially I guess Gauntlet started so early, 2018. So what's your journey from quant trader to crypto founder?
Yeah, I guess the theme of my career, starting from the beginning, is really about markets. And so as a quant trader, I was a high frequency market maker for about 6 years, and I touched a lot of different markets, both domestic and international, across a bunch of different types of products and asset classes. And so really felt like I got a pretty hands-on feel for what it's like to be a market operator and Also seeing the evolution of kind of market structure play out in the electronic trading space from like 2009 to 2015, kind of time when things were moving and changing very rapidly there. And then kind of transitioned to kind of the tech side of things. Worked at Uber for a few years, and there was also very much involved in kind of marketplace design and kind of market structure design of Uber's marketplace. And during my time there, I was on a team called Marketplace Optimization at Uber. And one of the major projects that we built was essentially this agent-based simulation model for the Uber network. And that was ultimately used as a way for Uber to test and develop pricing algorithms and dispatch policies for the platform. And so, I ended up kind of getting a lot of inspiration from my work both in trading and at Uber to essentially kind of apply to the crypto space, which was just starting out in 2018, and kind of market structure and market design was really just kind of in the very nascent stages, and has evolved a ton since then.
Very cool. So I think this is something I always love to ask anyone with like the C title is like, what exactly is your job, right? Like as CTO, what are the kind of decisions that you make on a day to day and how they influence projects, or I guess Gauntlet in this specific case?
So I guess maybe it would help to give a little bit more background on like the history of Gauntlet. And so over the last 6 years, the market has changed a lot, and kind of Gauntlet has also kind of been involved in a bunch of various things over the years. And as my role here, I've kind of been involved with a lot of these kind of major changes in overall company and product strategy. And so as mentioned, we started in 2018 working with layer 1 blockchains. Ultimately kind of ran into a situation where we were doing a lot of custom integration work for our simulation stack to be able to work with these individual chains. Everyone had like a different tech stack built in a different programming language. So a lot of early sims was kind of developed in C++. And just ultimately realized that this wasn't really a scalable way to build software if we have to have all these custom adapters for each customer that we're going to be working with. And so in 2019, we decided to kind of switch focus on Ethereum and the EVM. We saw that as like kind of more scalable solution to be able to work with more protocols and more people building in the space. And we did some initial exploration around if we can use agent-based sims to kind of supplement fuzzing and formal verification as smart contract security tooling. But then ultimately actually settled on using simulations for doing economic analysis and mechanism design for folks building dapps and now kind of DeFi protocols on EVM. And we developed this agent-based simulation SDK to help people stress test their protocols under various scenarios. The original idea was to essentially kind of put this tooling in the hands of developers so that they can basically build as a way to improve how they build and test these protocols, kind of analogous to how this works in trading and at Uber marketplace. But quickly ran into some kind of challenges there. We kind of learned along the way that this SDK was actually pretty complex to use. There's just a lot of features and dials. There's also a pretty high prerequisite on the kind of modeling knowledge that people needed to come in with to be able to best utilize the tooling. And ultimately, we realized the learning curve was too steep for a lot of scrappy DeFi startups to kind of learn and adopt, especially when they're in the stage of only having a couple of developers on the team. And so then I guess fast forwarding to 2020, DeFi summer was definitely kind of an inflection point where DeFi became real in the sense that there started to become much more on-chain usage and adoption that was more than just kind of MakerDAO and kind of what felt more like an experimental mode at the time. And so then kind of Gauntlet transitioned into kind of the Vita DAO business model for lending risk management. And so we had been working with both Aave and Compound and kind of doing the static analysis or risk assessment of the protocol before that, but then essentially transitioned the model to be active, a lot more active and kind of real-time risk management for those protocols as users started coming in, as assets were listed, things like that. And then in subsequent years, in 2021, we expanded to do DEX and AMM bonding curve, fee, and incentive optimization for other protocols, including kind of Uniswap, Balancer, SushiSwap. And then in 2022, we started developing the AIR protocol as a way to better facilitate on-chain coordination and optimization. So in some sense, we wanted to build a protocol for doing this protocol optimization work that we were kind of already doing on behalf of all these clients, and also wanted to find a way to be able to impact protocols in a way that was kind of lower friction than kind of everything having to go through the same omnibus governance process. And then since then, we launched Era in 2023. Also, I saw like more kind of DeFi primitives emerge with kind of perpetuals gaining more adoption, and then kind of most recently this year, starting to see a kind of strong trend towards curation, and so starting to work with protocols like Morpho on curating vaults, also curating vaults in the restaking space now. And Gauntlet, is now also acting as a guardian for a lot of the kind of air vaults that we've launched as well. So I guess maybe going back to your original question, definitely just a lot of change to navigate, because as leader at Gauntlet, and so been pretty heavily involved with kind of all those things above. And I guess for quarter to quarter, day to day kind of changes, a decent bit for me. Kind of go to where I'm needed the most. And so sometimes that can be diving in and being a little more hands-on, managing an individual team, either with individuals or kind of the strategy for that team in particular. Sometimes I lean pretty heavily into kind of recruiting and make sure we have the right folks to kind of grow and scale the team. There's other times where, just a lot of miscellaneous operational things. And other times been pretty involved with kind of sales and, customer calls, particularly kind of earlier on in Gauntlet's journey. I guess fundamentally, my job is to get the company aligned on a product and tech roadmap that makes sense, which is, not easy in crypto since things move quickly.
Yeah.
And then just making sure that, teams are kind of set up right. And people are kind of motivated to kind of work towards that shared mission that we have.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, because I lead a team too, and I'm like, oh my God, this is such a small scale. What does it feel like to be someone like Ray? But yeah, I mean, to that point, right? I think one last question I have for you before we switch gears over to Weemy is just generally, it seems like a lot of inflection points in Gauntlet's history, right? I think also in pace with crypto constantly changing, as you mentioned. How do you frame your thinking when making decisions? Like maybe just talking a bit about like what are the trade-offs that you consider when making big decisions like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the tricky thing in crypto is to try to not get caught up in the noise too much. And you're really just trying to kind of distill things down to kind of what you think the longer themes or more sustainable pieces are going to be. And so, there's definitely just a lot of kind of sanity checking to make sure kind of the thing that that is new and shiny at the moment is something that is going to be, kind of, generating value for a longer period of time. And to make sure that you're kind of investing at infrastructure investments are expensive and take a long time to build out. And so, making sure that you're building the right set of common infrastructure to kind of serve, customer needs is very important, given that kind of the customer's interface can change pretty quickly with the various cycles in crypto.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I like the piece where you said like get out of the hype cycles, kind of build for longevity. 6 years is a long time. Congratulations. But yeah, with that, I'm going to move over to you, Amy, so you don't have to just sit and be a participant. But yeah, let's take a similar look kind of at Revoke.cash. I'm not sure actually how early you joined. If you're
I joined in June 2024, but I've been in touch with Roscoe since over 2 years.
Oh,
So
wow, very, very early. But I mean, like Revoke has grown, I feel like insanely. I mean, yeah, if you can talk a little bit about like, you know, yeah, why'd you join Revoke? How's it been? What's the growth like?
yeah, for sure. Like Revoke started out initially in 2019, and like the overall reason that Roscoe started this project was because he didn't find anything that he could use to manage his approvals properly. Of course, like he's a nerd, as we all knew and know, and he's pretty much into things, but like going to every smart contract and looking up if you signed approvals and stuff like that, he found that pretty like intriguing. And he said like, hey, there's no tool out there which is like making it easy for the crypto users to just look up your address, see what you signed, like assigned to different blockchains. And he just sat there and built this tool. And I think that the tool Revoke.cash really stood out by the time and still does. And it's pretty unique in a kind of way, and it has been around for a while now, as just said, like 5 years already. So the crypto community really like used it constantly and has given us like some steady growth, as you just said. Like we started as pretty small, but as the word of mouth like came out about Revoke, hey, this is an awesome tool. Like it's free to use. Everyone can use it. You can use it on different EVM chains. People also like to use it, and I think they also let us know that we also do provide some good support with the tool. So if you just, I don't know, like jump into DMs or come into the Discord, we always try to answer questions really fast. But you just said like, how do we manage to keep the growth going, basically? And there's some sort of weird dynamic because like every time scams and hacks happen in the Web3 space, like we get like a huge amount of people like visiting our websites, and we get a huge amount of attention probably because like, I don't know, if there's some message out on Twitter, hey, protocol XYZ has been exploited, please go and revoke your approvals. Everyone is just visiting Revoke.cash, right? So the word of mouth spreads really, really fast, and we have these days where the servers are kind of like yawning because they are, oh my god, we're just at the edge of giving up. But we try to manage this in a way, and I think that Roscoe has done a very, very outstanding job in this, and this is why I was like attracted to join Revoke in the first place.
Okay, perfect. So if I know I need to help you guys out, I'll build a bunch of scam projects in Rug, and you'll give me some kickback. But yeah, I guess kind of also diving into your role, right? Your content and community.
Yeah.
What does that look like? How does that shape your like the direction that Revoke goes, or like contributes to growth and its importance in building a project?
Yeah, so Roscoe wanted to like focus a bit more on the dev part, and this is why we have been in constant talks. And he knows that I've been able like to provide education with the Boring Security DAO, for example, where I teach classes for free as well. And I created videos there and tutorials for people to stay up sharp, to so to say. And besides the tool of Revoke.cash, which is outstanding, we think we wanted to like provide education for the users so they can like minimize the occurrence of events like these hacks happening and like don't putting themselves at risk. But we wanted really to focus on the education part. We have like a knowledge base with articles on our website that most of them has Roscoe has done before I joined the project, but we also have like a lot of presence on social media. Like if you hit our DMs or Discord, we're always there to answer questions, and we are really out there trying to give Revoke a face and not just be like a faceless tool, but we really want to be there and help people, especially like for people who are new, because we think that is like the best way to build trust and legitimacy.
Yeah. I always think it's so interesting where I'm like, I feel like crypto has grown so much as a community based. We're still pretty niche. And I'm like, how sustainable is like being immediately responsive in Discord all the time?
Yeah.
Eh, and I haven't
It's
answered
kinda
that
hard.
question, but like, yeah, I'm like, oh, no one sleeps.
It's
Well,
kind of
this
harsh, and
yeah.
of course, like with our role at Revoke, of course, like we have a lot of question like regarding Revoke. Hey, how can I revoke this? Is this chain going to be supported and stuff like that? But we also see a lot of cases where people actually join our Discord when they have been scammed. So they join our DMs and say, hey, can you check my wallet? Like there was just 20K was just transferred out of my wallet. How can I get it back? And like we're always the guys to tell them there's no way to get it back. Like you can prevent this from happening in the future if you just revoke these contracts and stuff, but there's no way just to get your funds back. And this is like a real downside of the job, if you want to say. But yeah, I guess someone has to do it, and if it's a trusted source, yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for your service, question mark. No, it's definitely hard. I think content community is a really interesting job in the way it shapes, how people perceive a project. It only takes, I think, like one time to get burned, right? And then you're out
Yeah,
of
it's a
there.
super hard challenge because like
Right.
the majority of crypto users, they don't care for security as long as they don't get burned. But once they get burned, it's too late, right? So they cannot like prevent anything. If it's happened, it's happened. But we try to really push the education to prevention and yeah, get as many people aware of the certain scams that are out there, the various scams and forms. And this is why we just like made this short videos on Twitter recently, where we put like little videos where we explain, hey, this is scam XYZ, this is the tactics that are being used, and this is how you can prevent it.
Yeah, yeah. Perfect. Okay, I have one last question for you, and then we can kind of do a group chat so we're not in the continuously awkward space of like smiling, nodding at someone else, right? And the last piece I think that I found really interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, Revoke.cash is a donation funded project, right?
Yep.
I'm assuming it's open source.
Yep.
Like I guess I don't wanna say why because, like, I am such a pro open source person, but how has that affected the way you guys build your projects? Like, what are the difficulties like, have you encountered difficulties with funding, with all of this because you're open source? I know, like, public goods is probably one of the toughest places out there. Everyone wants them, no one wants to pay for them.
Yeah, so I know that Roscoe always believes in that the security tooling itself is like an integral part of the blockchain itself. So he really wants to have the crypto users have that toolkit for free, and everyone should have access to it while not being able to or charged to be like a monthly subscription or something like that. So this is why he took the route with donation and grants. I think that Roscoe, from his previous experiences that he had before Revoke, he also built on Truffle and stuff like that. He had a lot to do with GitHub and stuff like that. So I think he's also very pro open source projects, and this is why he decided to put Revoke out there, because basically you can say like, hey, if you want to contribute to the code, you can do that by submitting something to GitHub, for example. And luckily for us, we didn't have that many challenges yet, at least that I know of, because like the crypto community really, really loves Revoke.cash, as it seems, and we are really well respected in the space. And to this date, fingers crossed, I think that donation and grants have worked pretty well for Revoke to steady the amounts that it takes to let the space running.
Yes. Well, perfect. Thank you so much. I know security tooling definitely is something that feels like it should be free. I don't know if this is true or not, but when I think about Revoke.cash, I think about this like windshield wipers, maybe a true internet fact, maybe a false internet fact. The guy didn't patent them because he was like, cars without windshield wipers are going to be a death trap. So everyone should have windshield wipers, and I'm not going to monopolize this. And that's what Revoke feels like to me. But let's kind of tie it all back together. I think for both of you, I'm curious, like, as a joiner of an early project, well, I guess Revoke's not early, but like joining a big project or starting something like Gauntlet, like what makes you make that leap? Like, how do you know something you're building has legs on it? Um, I guess Ray, I'll give the floor to you first.
I guess when jumping in, it's kind of hard to know if something's going to work, almost by definition. I think for me, it just came down to, kind of personally as someone who's been, a market operator, especially during trading days for such a long time, there's kind of just like an itch to want to build something, and that's kind of both on the product side as well as like the team side. I had some experience building both trading systems and as well as teams kind of from scratch during my time in trading, and also kind of found that I really like just the 0 to 1 phase of a project. I think people say it a lot, but I think it's very true. Like, the best way to try to really learn and understand how something works is to basically take it apart and kind of build it from the ground up. And I've kind of been fortunate enough to have that experience a few times in my career. And then even during my time at Uber, and Uber was pretty large company already back in 2015, and I went from like 3,000 people to 20,000 people in the span of like 3 years. But even within that kind of larger company environment, I still found myself just kind of naturally gravitating towards like the kind of frontier and like kind of more experimental teams, the ones where just really wasn't sure if things were going to work out or whether the team was just going to kind of get disbanded 6 months down the road. And so for me, that was kind of just the ability to kind of explore was always kind of the main driving force. And then this kind of goes into so kind of knew I wanted to start something. And crypto is, I think, just the natural space for that to all play out. I think it was just really interesting market from a just personal and intellectual perspective. I think there's a lot of the kind of macro reasons, adoption of Bitcoin, ethos around decentralization, things like that were pretty powerful. But then just also from a more micro level, there's just a lot of thinking about markets and combining a lot of different interesting disciplines together. And so to be honest, kind of just jumped in and went for it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I caught myself in a loop. If it's a leap, it's you don't necessarily know. Yeah, I guess maybe for you too, Mimi, like what maybe it could be probably a general like question, right? Like what made you join such a volatile industry, right? Like
That's a
it
good
feels
question.
it's the same thing. I feel like being a founder is so like things change really fast. I too once upon a time started a beverage business and I was like, this is super fun. I think the 0 to 1 part was very interesting, but then everything after that I was like, I don't like this. Somebody, I don't want to make I have to make hiring decisions now, but like I don't know. There's a level of, I think, what do you call it? Brain itch that Ray has that probably I don't. But it is very exciting for sure. But yeah, I don't know, Mimi, I talk too much. Take it away.
So it's funny that Roscoe was actually like the first person out of Web3 I ever met in real life. And the key point we had, like the first time we met, or it came to happen because I made a comparison video back in the day where I compared the Etherscan token tracker versus Revoke. And back in the day, like the Revoke early version, it didn't have like the timestamps, what you last signed, for example, and you could see that on Etherscan. And from that, I had like Roscoe's competitiveness activated, kind of. And we talked a lot about crypto and tech ever since. And ultimately, like this connection I have with Roscoe, it made me jump into Web3 like full time and quitting my Web2 job. So I guess it's kind of try and error, like Ray just said. But overall, I believe like in the tech, and it's here to stay. And Revoke just aligns with my values that I found for me to be important, so that I can have some kind of value add, quote unquote, to the community that I engage with. So what can I do to prevent things like these hacks and like these scams from happening? Like what is my part I can contribute to the end users not getting burned that much? And I decided to just like risk it, because I have such a good feeling with Roscoe, because he's really an outstanding guy. And even before I joined, he's always like the one man army on Revoke.cash on Twitter and on Discord and stuff like that. So I really admire his work, and I'm glad that I get the chance to work with him.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let him know that today's episode is brought to you by Roscoe Schill. But yeah, I mean, maybe like a question for you, Ray, right? Like, okay, you're making the leap to being a founder, making decisions. what are like the early signals of success versus signals that things need to change? If you could say like there are any, maybe you just figure it out along the way. I don't know.
Oh, no, that's a good question. I mean, ultimately, I think it's about finding the right balance. I think for Gauntlet in particular, maybe it's a little bit different in that our customers are protocols or kind of projects in the space, and so there's a fine balance between like making sure that we are staying on top of kind of the latest kind of trends in the industry, in terms of latest kind of mechanisms and primitives that are kind of being built, and can be early movers in those. But at the same time, not kind of chasing the protocols that ultimately won't have kind of real adoption. And so, TVL, total value locked in DeFi, is can be kind of a crude metric, but I think it's also still useful for us in terms of like making sure the clients and protocols that we work with kind of have some base level of kind of usage and adoption and staying power in the space.
Nice. So what I'm hearing from that is Scroll is a protocol that has some baseline of user adoption and staying power in the space. Someone clip that piece right there, and we'll put it on
I mean, I
blast.
think they cracked the top 10.
Yeah. That's all we need to get on Gauntlet's pipeline. Cool. I want to take this conversation to a lower level, I guess, because we're talking about very lofty kind of like founding projects, 6 years, like multi-years in the making, thousands of Twitter followers. But we are doing this in preparation or like in celebration as advice for hackathon builders, so people just kind of feeling out the space. I want to like just basically just go through a list of like your opinions on, because I've discussed this with some builders too, and this first question is actually incredibly spicy. I did not expect it to be, but I had like an hour long, I don't want to say argument, but like back and forth of like how important is UX, right? I think definitely there's like a question in a hackathon that might be a little different of like what the trade-off between UX and um feature robustness is. But I think there is a baseline, right? Because no one's going to use their project if they can't figure out how to use it. Um, I don't know if that's an answerable question, but if you guys have feelings, please save me from myself right now.
Well, I think in this industry in particular, I think trust is kind of the most important.
Mhm.
And to the extent that you can kind of build a UX that builds or inspires trust in a particular product, I think that's ultimately the thing that's that's the most important. And unfortunately, I think there's forever a balance between figuring out how to ship fast, and having good enough MVPs, especially if you're developing in the smart contract space, or if there's operational security concerns that kind of force you to slow down. And I think crypto and then just finance in general is ultimately tied with trust, and people expect a certain level of polish and professionalism, and so. Yeah, so which definitely kind of makes it tricky to experiment with kind of early stage products sometimes. And I guess back to UX, I think that's definitely something that I think at Gauntlet maybe we underweighted a little bit in the early days. I think we definitely relied on kind of just more like interpersonal face-to-face interactions with customers to kind of build that relationship, build that kind of trust. And I think over time we've kind of found ways to kind of better leverage technology to kind of serve those same goals and kind of build like front end and app experiences that can kind of help kind of reinforce kind of both the information as well as like kind of like the branding and reputation that we're delivering to customers.
Mimi, do you have any thoughts? How important is it to be able to easily use Revoke?
I mean, starting off, I think if you have like a good use case and you have like a user base that's willing to use the service as it is, that's a great start. But I think like as you evolve and as you move on, the UX becomes like more important, because like if you figured out the direction like you want to go with your project and that becomes clearer for you, I think that, for example, if we talk about wallets, right, they've evolved quite a bit since the years that crypto has erupted, but it's still super nichey to use them. And like if you sit down a normal person in front of a UX of a wallet, for example, they will still think like, what the hell is going on? And I have no idea what I'm doing. Like even with all the apps we have on the phones right now, it still feels like the wallets aren't there like where they could be. But I'm super excited and super pumped to see like where they evolve in terms of user experience in the next, like, I don't know, 5 years or something. It will be very, very interesting for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess like when you have a lot of really avid early adopters, UX is not as important. I do agree with what you said, and Ray, in the sense of like starting out, like it is important to build sort of interpersonal relationships, though. In the context of a hackathon necessarily, actually, this is somewhat true. Insider fact from like, I guess, the hackathon judge point of view, there is a bit of bias for devs who continuously engage with us and ask questions and kind of find us over time. Because it is exciting to kind of see, building that relationship, talking about, what we're looking for in a project versus not. So I guess piece of advice that is coming from my side.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it depends a little bit in terms of like who your target audience or target customer is. Like if you're kind of building a consumer-facing dApp, like, it's just not going to be scalable to, try to develop individual relationships with all your users. I guess a little bit more tractable, from the perspective of Gauntlet, if, kind of we're mostly kind of like a B2DAO type of, company.
Okay, next question. Communicating value to external parties. So this is kind of a bit of a question about like massaging your pitch, right? Like how? What's the structure? What are the core, like in an elevator pitch, right? Like what is the first like 3 things? Like what are the beginning, middle, and end of what you need to communicate? Maybe let me repeat that question to me. That might be a little bit easier to understand. Like, I'll start with you, Amy. Like, when you're, I guess, talking to like someone introducing Revoke for the first time, like, how do you communicate value of Revoke?
I would probably ask them if they ever checked what kind of approvals they signed with their wallet, if they did crypto transactions and minting and whatnot. And the majority of people would probably say, no, what the hell are you talking about? And then probably I would show them, hey, we have this website, which is Revoke.cash. On there, you can check your wallet address, and there you can see which approvals you gave for your tokens to specific smart contracts to be able to spend that stuff on your behalf. And to practice like a good wallet hygiene, you should really do that in a reoccurring way. But we give this tool out for free to the users of quote unquote crypto in general, because we want everyone to have access to these resources. And we really want to make it easy for everyone to decide, like, is this something that should really be approved or stay approved, or is this something I should reconsider, like revoking? Because like I have a lot of tokens, I don't want this contract to spend my tokens, so I should probably revoke them. So this is like a basic UI to make it easier for you to see what's going on with your approved tokens.
Cool. So I want to end on this question to wrap up this section about like talking about, I guess, building dApps in general. The theme of this hackathon is actually forget everything we just talked about: product market fit, building the right thing, building for success. The theme of this hackathon is build your moonshot ideas, build something silly, stupid, wild, hamster racing kind of vibe. Just question for you two who've been in the space for a bit. What is the craziest dApp you've heard of? I can start. I heard about this 2 years ago. I don't know how much traction it is, but I think it was like it was a dating app founded by like I think there was a Bitcoin um, market predictor who predicted things based on moon cycles. And so she got like a huge following. And then my friend ended up building a dating app for her based on like crypto plus like what do you call it? It's not horoscope sign. I don't know where it went. I thought it was amazing. That was something like one of the most insane dapps I've heard of. So I was like, why does this need to be on chain? But I kind of want to play around with it because it's like, what? I don't know.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of crazy stuff over the years. I think just maybe just one recent example I came across was a project called Puff Paw, which is essentially kind of vape to earn, if you will, as a kind of way to essentially incentivize people to quit smoking and doing it in the way such that's kind of verifiable on chain. So yeah, interesting idea. And of course, there's a lot of a lot of potential pitfalls along the way as well. But
That's amazing. I met the founder of Bong DAO, if you guys have heard of it, at like ECC one year. Wild times. He had like a bong that you could scan an NFT for, and then it would record everyone he had ever smoked with. Um, but anyways, me, I guess.
It's not really crazy, but I'm a huge fan of Farcaster. So
Mm,
decentralized social networks are totally a thing where you can maybe like earn even earn stuff for posting and contributing and posting content, and not just like the majority of companies who are hosting these things are putting the gains in their own pockets. I really like the idea of that.
yeah. Farcaster is interesting because I used it very early and then I stopped and then it blew up again. So then I like reopened my account. I was like, why do I have all of this? So, okay, I'm going off on a tangent here. I do want to, okay, this is the last piece, I promise. Because this is a Scroll X Alchemy, I guess, live stream. I have to ask the question, why Scroll, why Alchemy? How do you decide what chains and providers to use or like build on? And I'll start with Ray.
yeah, I guess in terms of why scroll, I think ZK rollups are kind of very much the future. I think just the ability to have near instant withdrawal times back to the layer one is extremely important. Something that is kind of a little bit missing with a lot of the optimistic rollup solutions. And I think it's kind of technology that definitely just will kind of hit the point of scalability where it becomes like economically and computationally efficient enough to kind of have it kind of deployed at scale. And so, yeah, great to see kind of Scroll pushing the leading edge of that. And I think doing so in a way that, preserves EVM equivalence is super powerful since, building developer tooling is, it's extremely difficult, and being able to kind of bootstrap on top of, network effects from Ethereum and EVM community is, super important. As for Alchemy, running nodes is pretty hard and is also kind of pretty central to kind of what almost every project in the space needs to rely on, at some portion of the stack. Gauntlet has a little bit of experience in the space back in the day. For example, we ran Celo validator back in, I want to say like 2019. And so definitely having reliable node providers is kind of critical piece of our tech stack. And yeah, we use Alchemy as one of our primary node providers on Scroll, kind of Base, Optimism, Ardrim, Polygon. The majority of the major kind of EVM chains where kind of DeFi is happening. And yeah, we kind of use a lot of the kind of more traditional RPC endpoints as well as kind of the WebSocket functionality for doing kind of real-time streaming and ingestion. We also use Alchemy for powering the Gauntlet and Air app front ends as well, in addition to just indexing on-chain data for various use cases.
Cool. Thank you for that leading question. I guess I'll close it off with you.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, how do you decide what chains? I guess you probably just all of them, right? For like, I guess Revoke specifically.
Yeah, we have like some prerequisites that need to be met. For example, like you have to have a reliable block explorer to be able to have transaction histories and stuff like that. So for Scroll, we try to support as many chains as we possibly can. So to make sure that across all the chains out there, I know we don't support all of them, but across most of the chains out there, people can use Revoke.cash, and we are always happy to integrate communities that are like actively pushing out there, still out there doing stuff. Also, we have a good relationship with our Polysec, who's your head of security, if I'm not mistaken. And for Alchemy, I know this has been one of the most reliable and affordable infrastructure providers for Revoke for years. So I know that Roscoe is like a huge fan of the support. He always says like they are very, answering in a super timely manner, and they are always handling the stuff that he gives them in a great way. So a reliable partner like for us at Revoke is very crucial, and we're happy to have Alchemy for sure.
Yes, I'm so excited that we're working with Alchemy as well. Okay, to close off the session, question I always ask, because forget crypto, I love food. If you were a type of soup, what kind of soup would you be and why? I guess, I'll start with you, Ray. You can close us off, and I'll never yeah.
so I'm German, so the obvious answer would be like a chicken soup. This is like the go-to soup in Germany, but I'm not a huge soup fan, but I do love a good ramen. So probably a ramen would be my choice. I don't know why I would be a ramen, probably because that's one of the only soups I like. But with some good noodles in there and some eggs and stuff, and maybe chicken, I always like that. So I would be a ramen for sure.
Nice.
So ChatGPT steered me towards bouillabaisse, the French seafood stew. A dish I personally very much enjoy.
Yeah.
I'd say seafood is probably my kind of favorite kind of food category in general. But in terms of why bouillabaisse, I think there's an element of scrappiness to it. I think it was originally a dish made by kind of fishermen trying to make the most of their daily catch, and then also is a fairly complex dish made from simple ingredients, and can kind of be kind of tailored in many ways, kind of depending on how things are combined. And I see this as a bit of an analogy to kind of crypto.
Yeah.
Being a combination of a lot of different things.
Cool. If I can ask, what was your search term on ChatGPT? Hi, my name is Ray. Emily is going to ask me this question. If I were to
Learning how
type-
to use ChatGPT is one of the important things to do these days. No, I literally just fed in the prompts and then added some bio info, and I don't know, got some good content out of it.
Okay, cool. I guess that is exactly what I'm going to do immediately after this stream. Well, anyways, that's all I have for today. Again, thank you guys so much for joining. I'm going to bring up the registration link for the hackathon right now. Before I kick you guys all out, so the world can see this. Loading. Okay, down here. Wow, it's a really long slug. But just go to levelup.xyz. You can find the hackathon there. Alchemy mini hack is happening at now. Excited to see what you guys build. Check out Gauntlet when you're ready to use Gauntlet, I guess, and like Revoke for all of your security needs. So yeah, that's all I have for today. Thank you guys so much. Ramen and I don't remember what you said. French seafood soup that is scrappy yet complex.
The bouillabaisse.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna hit